I don't know if I like that title, but it is what it is. Shalom. All right. I don't know if I like that title, but it is. All right. Cool. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, everyone. Thank you for showing up today and greatly appreciate your presence. Um, you know, by the way, I just want to make us aware that um, the Sabbath day, everyone, is actually one of Yah's appointed times. It's just not an ordinary day. It's one of the days that he set apart, just like the time of Pesach or Chag Matzot, something we're going to talk about a little bit later at the end of our lesson today. But we need to remember and call to mind that the Torah is an opportunity for us to learn about the Most High and how He's working in our lives at the very moment while we're in our exile. It is difficult. It is very difficult to understand everything that He's talking about because a lot of the things that we discuss, we're not able to perform those things. And so, it becomes a little frustrating when we're trying to do the right thing and we're finding that we're faced with a lot of challenges because we can't do exactly what the Most High is asking of us. And so you would ask the question then, well, why would He give us the Torah? Why would He introduce this to us, knowing that we're not going to be able to keep everything that He said? From my estimation and from where I sit and for what I've been learning over the last 15 years is that the Most High just wants to know what our intent is. What is your intention? Right? And so he looks at the heart. And when I mean intention, he really looks at why are we doing what we're doing? Are we following him and we're doing what he's asking us to do because we want something from him, or is it because we understand where our people is fallen from? So what is the motivation, right? What is the intent? What is the whole entire purpose that we're doing what we're doing? So each of us we have to take the time to think about why we make the moves that we make and why we're doing what we're doing. So I just want you to think about that today as you embark upon this in particular Shabbat. Shabbat is a time of reflection, not only from one's work, but also to the things that we've learned over the last week. And so there's things that we're supposed to pick up that we've learned, and that's what the Torah is about. It's about learning, right? It's about instructions. So let me share my screen with you, and feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Let me pull this out of the way in regards to the study. And let me get myself off the screen. Um, Here we go. Okay. All right. So can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Good. Okay. This week's Torah portion, and this is the last Torah portion of our book called Exodus. In Hebrew, it's called Shemot, meaning the names. And so this is the last Torah portion. It's only a few chapters, and often it's read along with the previous one that we had. But again, I take the time to go through them and really try to understand what has been written about it. And of course, every cycle that we go through, we pick up a little bit more. This particular Torah portion is called Fakude. Okay, Ele Fakude. That is the name of it. And so, what does Ele Fakude mean? Well, from a Hebraic perspective, what it's talking about is accounting. Okay, that's what it's about. It's about accounts, right? And so when you read these, the words of the Torah this week, it was talking about everything that the children of had made. And when it's talking about the children of Israel, it's everyone who had the willingness to do the work. And so they made the tabernacle, they made the curtains, they made the garments, they made, you know, uh, the planks, the everything, right? All the vessels, right? And so all those different things were made. And so there was an accounting, and it was a time for them to present what they have made to Moshe. and he wanted to know exactly what it was that they've done. And so literally what it is, it's an inventory, okay? To find out if everything meets the specifications that was outlined or commanded by the Most High. Um, I want to do my very best not to try to spiritualize this, okay? Because I don't want to spiritualize this. What I want us to do is understand when I talk about spiritualize, what I'm saying is, make it spooky or make it mystical. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to turn this into a esoteric teaching. But what I do want us to do is really look at it in a very practical way to find out what it is that we ourselves can do. Because reading about what they have done makes sense for them, right? But we can pick up some of the things that they learned, we can learn as well because we are the children of Israel. We are the people who the Most High has introduced the Torah to, right? And so I want us to be aware of that. So, what's important about inventory? Well, of course, we want to know what we have and exactly how to deal with what we have, right? Is it in accordance to what the Most High has asked us to do, right? Or to make? And so, in this in particular case, I'm not going to tell you to do an inventory on yourself. I'm not going to recommend that. And the reason why I'm not going to recommend that is simply because whatever it is that we do, we have to present ourselves before the Most High, right? And remember, we need to be practical. Whatever it is that's going on in our lives, the Most High is the one who's going to do an inventory check on us. Maybe I should say it that way. Instead of us trying to inventory what we have in our own self, because we don't really know. That's the truth. It says that we don't even understand what's in our own hearts. Yahweh knows what's in our hearts. He knows what's in our mind and he knows our motivations. I mean, there is a scripture that I could have put up here, but I didn't put it up here talking about the Most High knows what the intent of the heart is, and he knows what the inner motivations are, and he knows what each person does and what their conduct and their behavior deserves. And so that's for him to figure out, right? Um, and then also too, if we're trying to do an inventory on ourselves, I don't think we're going to be as honest as we should be because, there's some things about me that I just, I'm hanging on to, right? And that could be problematic, right? So, to say the least, I don't want to talk about what's in my inventory, and I don't want you to talk about what's in your inventory. What we know is that the Most High is going to do an evaluation on us, and He's going to check us out. Okay. The word Ele Fakude comes from this word called Pakad in Hebrew. Okay. I think it's important for us to understand where, our Torah portions, where these roots of these words come, Fakude. You're like, well, what's Fakude? Well, Fakude comes from this word Pakad. Okay. And I know it didn't sound like Fakude, but these are the letters that were used in the word for Fakude. Okay. Is this word called Pakad? Now, I don't expect you to remember everything that I'm writing, but I just want you to kind of understand why he's doing this inventory, why he's doing this accounting. In the Hebrew, I say culture, there's always going to be the idea of someone overseeing you. There's always going to be oversight, and there's always going to be someone who's going to oversee. So they're going to literally take inventory of you, right? So there is something about an expectation. This overseer is watching over you. This overseer is making sure that you've done what you said that you were given to do, the duty and responsibility, the work that was set before you. Okay, in our case, it would be our life, right? And so we're going to have to give account. We're going to have to give an account to the one who's our overseer, right? And the overseer is the Most High. That's the reason why I said you don't really want to try to be your own overseer because if you say that you're your overseer, there's going to be some things that you're going to miss. There's going to be some things, and you don't want to set anyone else over you to be an overseer because they really don't know who you really are. They don't know your inner motivations. They can't read your mind. So they don't know either. Okay. So this is the challenge that we face. Okay. Is that we have to be humble enough to understand that there is someone who is watching over us. Okay. But the word pakad comes from these three Hebrew letters that you see here. And going from the right to the left, this letter right here is what they call a pay, P-E-Y. Okay. And in Hebrew, it's recognized as the letter, or in English, excuse me, is transliterated as the P right here. So it has the same sound for, push or play or any of those things. Even though this letter right here kind of looks like a P, it's not a P. It's actually a Q in Hebrew. Okay. But the letter P in Hebrew, or the word pay in Hebrew, means your mouth. Okay. And the second letter, which is the Q, is going to be this word here, or pakad. It is this kof right here, means a circuit. So it's something that's going around in a circle, a circuit. Okay. Something is traveling around. Okay. Just like how the sun travels around and how you go around a racetrack and all that kind of stuff. And it has to do with one's head, because your head is like a big old circle, right? So here's the head, you go in a circle, okay? Also, too, the last letter of this is a door, as we talked about. So you'll consistently hear me talk about Hebrew letters and Hebrew words because I want you to understand that the purpose of the language is to open you up to understand what it is that the Most High is talking about. Okay. So the oversight is one who is overseeing you, which is by an overseer. So it's all over, over, over. Okay. And so we know that, and this has to be done through the idea of something that has to do with the mouth. Okay. It's about something that has been spoken. The circuit part of it is that it's always going to come around. It's always going to come around like the sun, how the sun has a circuit and it goes on its course. It's always going to go around. The moon is on a circuit. Okay. The circuit also talks about the cycle. So there's things that are on a cycle. Okay. And so this is what happens. And the door, of course, is the idea of movement. It's always going to be an open and closed situation, right? It's a going in and it's a coming out. So let's continue to dig into what this means. Okay. Um, when the first day that we read in our Torah portion this week, Yom Echad, which is day number 1, it says these are the accounts of the tabernacle. So this is what the account is about. It's about the tabernacle. And it says the tabernacle of the testimony. I have that in bold because I think when I first read this, and I've read it several times, it didn't pop out until this in particular cycle that I was on my Torah portion. That said it's a tabernacle of the testimony. It didn't say it was a tabernacle of the menorah. It didn't say it was a tabernacle of the showbread. It didn't say it was the tabernacle of the altar with the incense. It didn't say the tabernacle of the curtains. It said the tabernacle of the testimony. Okay. Recorded as Moshe ordered by the Leviim under the direction of Itamar, the son of Aharon the Kohen. The reason why Itamar is mentioned here is not because Itamar is the one who's actually um, doing the work on the in particular tabernacle. What he's mentioned is because he's the one who's supposed to handle a lot of the elements of the tabernacle. So they're letting us know that guess what? This in particular son of Aaron is going to be responsible for the tabernacle, all of its when it's moved or how it's set apart, who's supposed to carry it, and so forth and so on. But the part that I want to bring out right quick is that it's talking about the adut, okay? And the adut in Hebrew is the actual testimony, right? And the two letters that are mentioned right here are the letters that you see over here, okay? And it means the I is for the ayin, for this first letter right here. That's the I in Hebrew. And then the next one is a door for the dalet. It's a D sound, right? So adut. So the adut is the testimony. And what is an adut? An adut is actually a witness. So when it talks about the tabernacle of the testimony, it's talking about the tabernacle of the adut. And the adut is the testimony. Okay. And the testimony is recognized as the 10 words or the 10 statements. Okay. The 10 Eseret Hadavarim, which is the 10 words. The 10 words in the New Testament is recognized as called the 10 Commandments. But it's not 10 commandments, it's the 10 words or the 10 statements that the Most High spoke to the children of Israel. So the tabernacle was made in order to carry around and to protect the adut. It was is there to protect the witness, because that's what an adut is. It has to do with witness, okay? And the witness is an eyewitness. Okay. So every time someone went to this tabernacle, which is Moses or, the leaders or Aaron or whatever, they were eyewitnesses. They went there to eyewitness something. Okay. And they had to go to the door of the tabernacle because the tabernacle had doors, or you would say tent curtains, which is representative of a door. So the witness is what the tabernacle was made for. Okay. It was there to host the Most High's testimony that the Most High has given to the children of Israel because they were the eyewitnesses to Yah speaking directly with them. And so this is what he wanted them to do. Okay. With the same thought process in mind, okay, it says on Yom Kippur, it says, and I have it in Hebrew, it just says la asot. La asot means to observe. That means to do. And the reason why I have this here is because the way that it was written, it was talking about how the Most High, when He's asking us to do what He asks us to do, it's always going to have to happen. Okay. It's infinitively doing something. Okay. So when it says the covenant that you were commanded to la asot, meaning to do, which are the 10 words, was declared to you as and inscribed them on the two tablets of stone. The covenant is the 10 words. That's the covenant. Going back to why the tabernacle was made is for the 10 words. It's for Yah's statements that were declared. The statements were declared for us to la asot, la asot, la asot, to always infinitely doing them. So everything that's written in the covenant is the 10 words. And this is the reason why I'm always saying that we should memorize the 10 words. Because these are the things that the Most High is going to hold us to in terms of witness, whether or not you would believe his testimony. So you have to look at what he said, and you have to measure that not just by what other people are saying, because what other people say don't mean anything. What he has said is what you and I should be looking at. And that's what you and I should always be doing, infinitely doing, is to observe what he said. So in hindsight, let's look at the idea behind the covenant. The covenant is that I'm Yahweh. I brought you out of the land of Egypt from being in slavery and being in bondage. I brought you out of that. Second thing is I don't ever want you to bring another Elohim before me. Third is I don't want you to bow down or make any images to anything in the heavens and earth and anything on the earth beneath or anything below the sea. Okay. The fourth thing is that I want you to always remember never to carry around my name as being empty and vain. The fifth thing that I want you, or excuse me, fourth thing that I want you to understand is that you're supposed to keep the Sabbath day, right? The fifth thing is that I always want you to understand is that you should honor your father and your mother, okay, your parents. The sixth thing is that you should never commit adultery, excuse me, murder. Seventh thing is adultery, okay? The eighth thing that I want you to remember or to remember is about never to take anything that doesn't belong to you. The ninth thing is I never want you to bear a false witness against anyone who is your neighbor. And the 10th thing that I want you to remember is don't covet anything that belongs to your neighbor, whether it's his house, his donkey, his ass, his wife, or none of those things. And those are the 10 statements of the covenant. So what's been going on for us is that we're trying to uh, find all the other commandments to keep, and we're focused more on that. People are getting caught up on, Pesach, they're getting caught up on the festivals, they're getting caught up on all these other things. And they're missing the actual testimony because the testimony is what was in that gold box that the Most High had made that we've been learning about for the last several weeks. These words right here are the ones that were safeguarded. So those are the words that we need to la sot. Those are the things that we always need to be doing. Okay. I'm sorry if I move a little quickly because we have so much to cover. Pakad also means to visit or punish. It also means that, like again, the pay right here, the first letter on your right-hand side, was talked about a mouth, and the function of that mouth is to be open. Okay. That's what a mouth does. It opens and it closes. And that's one of the things that we need to be careful about. Because sometimes the things that are coming out of our mouth can really condemn us. Speech is where the problem is. I don't know if all of us understand this, is that sometimes we say things, right? And we're speaking about things, and then we get ourselves in trouble. Like, for example, we told the Most High that everything that you said we'll do. Everything he said, we'll do it. We'll keep it and we'll do it. We said that to the Most High, and therefore, because we spoke it, we're going to have to be responsible for the words that have come out of our mouth. Okay. Um, and this is what Yah is going to come and visit for. Okay. This is why the word pakad is also used to punish, because the overseer is coming to visit in order to find out if you did what he said or if you didn't do what he said. That's the reason why I told us earlier in the presentation, you're not your own overseer. You and I are servants to the Most High, and he's going to come and visit, and he's going to punish. That means if we didn't do what he had asked us to do, so if he's an overseer and he's given oversight, then obviously he has given us a responsibility. And that responsibility that we've been given is the 10 words that we just said, which is the covenant, which you and I are supposed to guard, the Eseret HaDavarim, the 10 statements. That's what you're going to be held responsible. This is why the Most High is going to visit, and he's going to find out if I'm going to punish you because you didn't do what he said. And again, the letter here again in the center, which is the Q up here in English, the pakad, it means a cycle, like a circuit. So what the overseer does, he comes and he gives us a command. And he says, this is what I want to be done. Then after you do the work, there's going to come a time where the overseer comes to visit to see whether or not you did what you were commanded. That's what this is about. And then if you find out that it wasn't done the way that you said, then there's a punishment. There's a punishment by the one who has come to be the overseer, right? To oversee what? Your work. So everything that you and I do, everything that we say is going to be visited and it is going to be punished. That's why it's important, as he told us about what this letter means, is if you open your mouth, okay, and you're saying something, we're going to be held accountable for what we say. We're going to be held responsible for what we do. And that is always going to be the case. Like he says, to always do the Torah, or to always do the covenant, to always do the Eseret HaDavarim, which are the 10 words or the 10 statements about everything he mentioned in Exodus chapter number 20. So for us, our lives are always going to be on a cyclical pattern. Everything is going to come around. You know how they say what goes around comes around? They get that from the sun. They get that from the seasons. What goes around comes around. So there's cycles that are involved in pakad. There's cycles that are involved in accountability. There are time factors that are associated with these ideas. Okay? Again, as mentioned, the Dalet, which is the D sound right here in English, D, that's this letter right here. That's what it looks like. Okay? It means a door, but the door moves. So it's an in and it's out and it's always moving. There's always a transverse. There's always a coming and a going. So this is going to happen. So when he says, I'm going to visit, I'm going to punish, and I'm going to give us an example here, he's telling us this is going to happen. This is not mysterious. That's why I said I don't want to spiritualize it, because it's not mysterious. It is what it is. That's what pakad means too. So accounting has to do with punishment. It has to do with that. So again, Yom Echad. This is what was said on the first day again. He said it means visiting. He says, I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am a jealous El. I'm a jealous El. I'm punishing. That word punishing right there means visiting. I'm visiting you. So when he's talking about punishing you and punishing us, he's talking about, I'm going to come and visit you. I'm visiting the children for the sins of the parents. I'm punishing or visiting the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those hating me because they got that hatred from their parents. But displaying grace to the thousand generations of those loving me. So the ones who love Yahweh, they got it from their parents. If your child hates the Most High, they hate him because you have hated him. Yes, Mashal.
So, if I'm to understand right, uh, we can get punished for the sins of our ancestors, our parents, but we cannot be put to death for their sins.
Thank you. Absolutely correct. But let's clarify what he's saying here. He says, I Yahweh Elohim am a jealous hell. Okay. He says punishing, meaning the word is visit. I'm going to visit you. I'm going to pakad you. I'm going to pakad the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generations of those hating me. Hating is the ones who have turned against me. It's the ones who turned away from me. This is not an emotion, it's an action. It's an action. When you say, when Yah says you're hating him, it's turning away from Yahweh. The parents were turning away. So when we look at our ancestors were turning away from Yah. And because they were turning away from Yah, they're by default, their children are turning away from Yah. This is why it's important as his parents to teach our children to love Yahweh. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. V'ahavta et Yahweh Elohecha. V'kol levaveka uv kol nafshika uv kol meodeka. W'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anoki d'matzaveka v'ole levaveka. What did I just say? Listen and obey Israel. Yahweh our Elohim is one. You are to love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your resources. And the words that I'm commanding you today are to be on your heart. Then he goes on and says, Vishanantam, meaning that you are to teach them to your children. And you're supposed to write it down on your mezuzot, on your house, on your gates. You're supposed to bind it to your hand. You're supposed to have the tolafot to be in between your eyes as a remembrance that our responsibility is to love Yahweh and to teach our children to love Yahweh. If you and I fail to teach our children, Yah says, I'm going to punish your children for your inability to show them what they need to do. And a lot of us today are suffering. I'm suffering from this. I'm suffering from my inability of my mother and father and my grandparents not teaching me to love Yahweh. I'm suffering from that. I'm suffering because my mother and father, because ultimately my children are not loving Yah the way that we're supposed to love Yah. He said, love him with a whole heart. He didn't say but partially. He said wholeheartedly. My children don't love Yah. My son doesn't love the Most High. And the reason why he don't love the Most High, like his mother brought to my attention, is because what we did as a result of what our mother and father did and what their mother and father did and what their mother and father did. So is this a blame game? No, it's the truth. Elder Bill and Zanya talked about how they were sitting there teaching their grandchildren Shema Yisrael. They're teaching their grandchildren. So what are they doing? They're going back and they're looking at where we have dropped the ball, and they said, we're going to do something different. We're going to teach it to them. So they could teach it to their children. They could teach it to their children and their children's children. Even those who are not born yet, supposed to be on their way, coming to the earth to find out how they're supposed to honor, respect, and turn to Yahweh. Because he is going to visit them. We don't see that in our Torah portion. We saw a whole bunch of things that were made, but we never looked at the fact that the Most High said, I'm going to visit your children. And I'm visiting them right now. Nobody is going to get a pass and no one's going free. Absolutely nobody. Because Yahweh is not going to let anybody go. He ain't letting me go. He ain't letting nobody go. And why? Because as parents and as grandparents and great grandparents, we failed to teach our children what the Most High said. So that's the reason why we're getting the results that we're getting. So when I want to complain about my son becoming a Muslim, I'm not afraid, ashamed to say what my son is. I'm not. I'll tell it to you right now. My son has turned his back on the Most High Yah like a fool, like a traitor. But he did it, and he might have done it. I don't know. But the bottom line is, I still have to bear some responsibility for that because I didn't teach him. Well, you didn't know, Akika. You came to the truth 15 years ago, and he was already 17 years old. So what's the problem? The problem is that I could say, well, I didn't know, but not knowing doesn't mean that you're going to get a pass. If you break Yah's law, there is no I'm going to walk away free, people. Whatever it is that we're doing, whether you know it or not. He even says, which we're going to get into next week, praise be to the living Elohim. He's going to tell you and I, even if you didn't know what you did, you still sinned against me. There is still an atonement that needs to be made. So we can't say I didn't know. You're guilty. I'm not guilty. Yes, you are. You are guilty. We're guilty, people. Second day, Yom Shani, they work the onyx stones. Talking about the ones who wholehearted, the ones who are filled with the spirit of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. They're engraving them with the names of the sons of Israel as they would be engraved on a seal. So we learned that about on the second day. Why are the names of Israel on these stones, on these onyx stones that were mounted in gold on the shoulders of the priest? Because Yahweh says that I always want you to bring the names of the sons of Israel before me. And each of us should know what those names are. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yissachar, Zevulun, Dan, Asher, Gad, Naphtali, Benjamin, Yosef, Manasseh, Ephraim. We got to know those names. We have to know because Yah knows. You should know the names of the individuals that the tribes who have betrayed the Most High. You should know the names of the tribes who forgot about the Most High. We should know those names. But you know what? We don't understand everything. We don't understand everything. Yeah, he said to bring them before me, but what does that really mean? We don't know. But what we do know is the Most High. Someone raise your hand. Was that you, Mashallah?
Yeah, no, that was a mistake. I'm sorry. Apologize.
So there's a word called Gaba, right? Gaba means to be high, exalted, and lofty. The Most High says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, and your ways are not my ways." Akika, why are you laughing? Well, I'm laughing because I understand what this is saying. Okay. Yah is high, exalted, and lifted up. He's Gaba. Okay. Gaba. So I got to remember Gaba. And what it is, everyone, is he's telling us, he says, my ways are higher than the heavens. As the heavens are above the earth, so is my ways. So he's letting us know that your ways, your thoughts, and the way that you move and the way that you think is not like I think, is not the way that I think, is not the way that I move. There is a clear distinction between us and the Most High. And he's mentioning this to us because he's letting us know that I'm the one who's highly exalted. He's letting us know that, you and your way that you think, you're very, you don't have a vertical understanding. Our understanding is what we see, which is very horizontal. Okay. We don't really understand things. And we need to be reminded of this because if it wasn't important, the Most High would have never mentioned it. He's putting us in our place. That you don't think like me. The way that you would handle something is not the way that Yah handles it. Your ways are not my ways. The way that you think is not my thinking. This is the reason why he's introduced the Torah to us. So you and I can accept that he is the one that's higher. So when he gives us the Torah, he's giving us the Torah to let you know, okay, look, you guys are people that are on the earth that he selected, that he wants them to draw near to him. And the whole idea about Yah is always about elevation. If we're going to be his people, he's telling us, look, you can trust what I'm saying. If I'm telling you that your thoughts are not my thoughts and your ways are not my ways, that means that you and I are going to have to acquiesce to what he's talking about. We're going to have to come to acceptance about what he says versus about what you and I think. Our thinking is off. Our thinking is stinking thinking. Our thinking is not the right thinking. And we can have confidence in Yah. But when you and I treat Yah like he's a human being, and we're thinking that we're on the same level, and we're thinking he's going to negotiate, and our anger, our frustration, or the way that we handle things is the way that that's going to be acceptable to him, you and I are dead wrong. It's not. That's something that you and I need to understand. That's something that you and I need to investigate. That's something that you and I need to make inquiry about. This is something that you and I need to compare and find out whose word is more important. Is it his word or is it my word? Is it his ways or is my ways? Is it my thoughts or is his thoughts? He's already told us what it is. And he has a right for this because of everything he's done. In the Torah, when the children of Israel brought the items to the children of Israel, brought them to Moshe, they were brought there to be inspected. Inspection is part of the dynamic of Pakad, going back to the one who's an overseer, going back to the one who's visiting to make an inspection. And what are you supposed to inspect? What you expect is an expectation. There's always going to be an expectation from the Most High. The Most High expects something from us. And because he's an overseer and he has oversight over our lives, he is going to go through inspection. Don't try to inspect it yourself, because you and I will make excuses on why it looks the way it looks. My wife and I, Maisha, we were on a walk the other day, and we were looking at these houses. And I told her, I said, at one point, I think, me and my family, we really could have been good carpenters because my grandpa was. But I said we didn't come together, we didn't do this. And I was talking about a guy that I knew who was a carpenter. And I remember that when he was a licensed contractor, the work he did was shabby. It was shabby, but he never got sued. Or if he did, he always won the case. And I was like, and she asked, well, why did he win it if it looked like that? I said, because in the law of construction, it's not about how pretty something looks. It's about whether or not it meets the code. So when an inspector comes, if it meets the code, what is expected, you can get past. Okay. So it doesn't have to look beautiful, but if it meets the code, if the inspector comes and he said, is this supposed to be 6 inches? If that screw is 6 inches from where it needs to be, it's accepted. It doesn't talk about how beautiful the sink is, how it looks. It's whether or not it functions correctly. It's about meeting the code. It's about meeting the expectation. See? So when people are looking for a contractor, just be mindful. He's not guaranteeing the beauty of something. He's guaranteeing the functionality of it. And you and I can learn from that. The expectation the Yah is looking for is whether or not it meets the code. The code is the law of Yah. Does it meet the specifications which Yahweh has stipulated? We will know if it meets the stipulations if we read the code, and the code says the individuals who's supposed to do this is from this family, the Levine family, and they have been certified, they have been qualified, they have been registered, and they have been in the record book to prove that they're the people who's supposed to be doing the work. It is a kukat, which is a decree forever. So you and I to come along later, hundreds of years later, and try to downplay Yahweh's laws so you and I can feel good about the work that we're doing, it's not going to be accepted. It's not going to be accepted because it doesn't meet the expectation. You understand? So this is why we're having a problem as a people, because we have not expected or accepted what Yah says he's going to accept because it doesn't meet the expectation. So if you and I want to get in alignment with Yahweh, we got to make sure that we meet the expectation. So if he says that this is what it is, you do not add to what he said. You do not subtract from what he said. You do not diminish from what he said. It is what he said. Because this is what it is. You understand? As you learned on Yom Shalishi, which is the third day, thus all the work for the tabernacle, the tent of meeting was finished. The people of Israel doing everything exactly as Yahweh had ordered Moshe. Exactly. That's the only time something's going to be accepted of Yah. If it's according to what has been commanded and ordered. It has to be exactly what Yahweh has said in order for it to be accepted. It has to meet the expectation. Why? Because you're supposed to inspect what you expect. You understand? So now you're on the earth. Your job, you're a manager, you're a business owner, you're a parent, you're a husband, you're a wife. Doesn't matter whatever position you hold. You expect what you expect. I told you to do the dishes. They did the dishes. Did you go in there and inspect? No. They said they did it, so you accept what they did instead of you inspecting it. And that's our problem. We're on acceptance versus inspection. You understand? We and the people that you have oversight, just like the Most High has oversight over us, you are supposed to inspect what you expect. You're not supposed to accept anything, and you're never supposed to make an exception for nobody. Nobody gets an exception. You understand? So there are no exceptions. You can accept, you're not going to accept it. You're going to have to learn how to package. You're going to have to learn how to inspect what you expect. This didn't say accept what you made an exception for. There are no exceptions. It applies to everybody. You understand? So we are supposed to learn that we're supposed to inspect everything that we're looking for, just like the Most High is going to inspect us. So what he's asking from us is the very thing that you should be supposed to be asking from others. I hope you heard what I said. You and I are supposed to inspect what we expect, because what God expects from us is what's going to be inspected. That's what it is. And you will know what it is after you make an inspection, after you look carefully at it, after you look at the letters of this word right here, going back to your mouth, after you open it up. You open it up and you look at it. You open the cabinets. You open the bank account. You open up the file. You open up whatever you need to open up so you can look at it and make sure. You open the computer up. Did you do what I asked you? Yes. Oh, you said you did that? Yes. When they have an inspection in construction, everyone, if someone puts the wall up before it was inspected for the electrical or the plumbing, they failed the inspection. You're not going to put a wall up. You're not going to cover what I need to inspect. All because it has a wall up there doesn't mean what's inside is right. I need to inspect what's inside. So before you put that wall up, Mr. Contractor, I need to come in and make sure you got the proper wiring. I need the proper gauge. You got the proper location. You got the proper casings. You got the proper conductor. You got the proper plumbing. You got the proper paint. You got the proper everything. Everything that has been designated and specified for the job. But that's not the case today. What we're at now is I'm going to put the wall up and you're going to accept it. What we have now is instead of us inspecting and being bold enough to cause people to understand, they are trying to get you to accept what they're doing. And you should not be accepting what they're doing. You should be inspecting what they're doing. And because you have oversight.
So it's back on you. You're the overseer. If you choose to be. If you've designated yourself as an overseer, it's your responsibility. Going back to what I said earlier when we opened this teaching, you and I are, instead of inspecting things, we're just going to accept it. We're not holding other people to the same standard that the Most High is holding us to. And that is what caused our ancestors to fail. It's because no one was keeping the same standard. They were changing the standards. There should be a set standard. And that is Yah's law. So whatever his law said, that's what you're supposed to be evaluating, inspecting, giving accounting, and all that. You understand? And that inspection is going to be on a cycle. You're always going to do it. Just like you said, you're always going to keep the commandments. You're always going to be doing, you're always going to be moving to do this because that is part of our life. That is part of our journey. You understand? But if you're the overseer and you have responsibility, and you can only take responsibility for what you have oversight over. I said earlier that you and I cannot inspect our own because you're not your own overseer. The Most High is our overseer. You're going to be held accountable, pakat, to Yah. Do you understand? So that's what we need to do, okay? Inspect what you expect. Now, we dealt with the accounting. Now we're going to talk about something that happened in the past. And this is one of the problems that has messed our people up, okay? It says, Lo yada Yahweh, lo ma'aseh. It's all in English right there, La Yisrael. And what is that saying? It says, when the entire generation had been gathered to their ancestors, that's meaning all the other people of a generation had died, another generation arose that neither knew Yahweh nor the work that he had done for Israel. The lo yada is they did not know. Never. Lo means never. Okay? They got neither. No, it means absolutely never did they know Yahweh. Lo ma'aseh. They did not do, neither did they know, ever understand, absolutely never knew the work that Yah had done. And how did that happen? That he did for Israel, love Yisrael. How did that happen? How did they not know after their parents, their ancestors died? How those other generation did not know? The entire generation. How did not know? The generation didn't know they lo yada Yahweh because of their ancestors. Because somebody did not say, I'm going to take responsibility and have oversight of what Yah gave me to be overseer about. That generation made excuses. That generation did not hold anyone accountable. That generation did not visit in Pakati. They didn't do what Yah does. Do you understand? He says, your thoughts are not my thoughts. That's why he's giving us his thoughts. They're written out for you so you'll know what he said. There's no guesswork. So there's no excuse for lo yada. Lo yada comes from the ancestors that were before. Now that you know it now. Now you can erase the yada, the lo off of here. Now you can say ki to yada. You don't have no lo yada no more. You and I know now. We yada Yahweh. When you and I do what he said, you get rid of this lo. That's the past. Now it's yada Yahweh. You know Yahweh now. What do you mean you know him? He revealed himself to us. He told us what his words are. He told us the difference between right and wrong. He told us what this is supposed to happen. He tells us the difference between righteous and wicked. What else does he need to tell us? He told us about his work that he has done. What work did Yahweh do? He got us from the land of Mizraim, out of bondage, which he tells you in the covenant, the 10 words. He told us what he's done. He told us he fed us. He told us he gave us water. He told us brought us through the wilderness. What else does he need to tell us? What else does he need to show us before you and I yada Yahweh? He did this for Yisrael. That includes you, people. You understand? That was a past accounting. They didn't know him. Why? Because nobody's inspecting what to be expected. There should be an expectation. Do you understand? And you're only responsible for the ones that you have oversight. Everybody else, let them handle it. Pakad. Pakad also means to appoint. It means a statute and a command is given by the overseer. The overseer who has oversight, who's going to oversee, says, I'm going to give you a job to do. I'm going to appoint to you. The Most High has appointed his statutes and his command to his people. And he's told us, how can I hold you accountable if I didn't tell you what to do? How can I hold you accountable and you don't have the command? How can I oversee something that you know nothing about? So going back to our word pakad again, what does the mouth do? The mouth speaks. And what is it supposed to speak? It's supposed to speak the commands and the statutes of Yah. Why? Because it's a revolution. It means that it's always going to go around from generation to generation. Letter hasn't changed. The concept hasn't changed. Circle, cycle, head, all of it. It's always going around in a circle. It's a revolution like the sun goes around the planet. You understand? Earth, the same thing. The moon has its cycles. The earth has its cycles. You have your cycle. The woman has its cycles. The seasons have its cycles. It doesn't stop. So is pakad involved with what we can see, smell, taste, touch? Yes, it is. So you see how the Hebrew language is causing us to live and causing us to understand. When are you going to open your mouth? When you open your mouth, what are you doing? You're speaking. You're saying something. You got it open. But he told us to teach our children what? The commands. What are you supposed to be talking about? The statutes of Yahweh. What are you supposed to do? Appoint this to your family so they can keep the laws and the statutes. What appointment, Akika? The appointment's called the Moedim. You got a Moedim coming up in a few days called Pesach. Few days, Chag Matzot. What? Because it's been an appointed. You're here on Shabbat. Why? Because it's been appointed. So what is y'all going to hold you to? I'm going to hold you to the Shabbat. I'm going to hold you to the command. I'm going to hold you to the statute. I'm going to hold you to what I appointed you because I told you it's going to be generation after generation that pops right into this word revolution because that's what a generation is. It goes all the way around. Over and over and over and over and over again. So when you and I teach our children, they're supposed to teach their children. So in this cycle, you might be right here. Then your child is right here. And then it goes around and goes around and around. And then they're going to have a child. And it goes round and round and round. And then you're going to fall off. And you're going to go away. And they're still going to be here. But if they have not received the command, the statute, and the appointment of Yah, he's going to visit them. This is not no mystery. This is the truth. They're going to be visited. And you want to give them the right words. You want to give them the right information because when Yah visits, you want them to be prepared. Going back to the door has to do with access. Yah has opened the door, which is his Torah, to bring light unto us, to tell us, I'm going to judge you. I'm going to visit you. I'm going to hold you responsible. You're not going to say stuff and me not do nothing about it. I'm not preaching to us today. I'm telling us that he's telling us that guess what? You are going to be held responsible. I'm bringing you into account. No one is going to get away with anything. What happened? They abandoned Yahweh. That's a past accounting. Not only they forgot about Yahweh, the generation, the circle and the cycle, and they fell off. He says they abandoned Yahweh, the Elohim of their fathers who brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods, selected from the gods of the peoples around them and worshiped them. This made Yahweh angry. Why? Because they forgot Yah. They abandoned Yah. They abandoned the law, the statutes, and the commandments. This is what they have done. And this is a past accounting. The only way you and I can get out of this is by saying, you know what? We need to go back and turn back to Yahweh. We need to go seek Yahweh. Instead of abandoning Yahweh, let's scratch this out and let's seek Yahweh. We can reverse the curse. All we need to do is start seeking Yahweh like he says. Darashti. I have sought Yahweh, meaning I have asked questions. I want to find out more. What does Yahweh say about this? What does Yahweh say about that? How does Yahweh look at this? How does Yahweh look at that? Yahweh's thoughts are not my thoughts. Yahweh's ways are not my ways. I got to submit to Yah. I'm a servant. Yah's the king. He's the master. I'm supposed to do what I'm told. That's what it is. So you start seeking Yah instead of abandoning Yah. You stop following after other gods and you get rid of these gods of the people around you and you worship and stop worshiping them and worship Yahweh. And then Yahweh's anger will turn. He will no longer be angry at us if we would turn back to him. So our past can be our future if we don't make any changes. I'll say it one more time. Our past can be our future. The reason why things are happening the way they're happening is because of our past. Your future is what's happening right now. So if you're not doing what you're supposed to, if you're abandoning Yah, what he said, trust me, our children are going to do exactly the same thing, and Yahweh's going to be angry with them. You understand? We have to change. Yom Ravi, the fourth day. Moshe saw all the work. There it was. They had done it. They done it exactly as Yahweh ordered. Exactly as Yahweh ordered. And they have done it. And Moshe blessed them because you can only bless something when it's done exactly the way the Yahweh ordered, the way the Yahweh commanded. And again, it was work. It's going to take work. And it has to be done exactly the way that Yahweh was in order for it to be blessed. Only way it could be accepted. So Moshe didn't just accept all of it. He inspected it. He went through it. He went through the details. He looked at the craftsmanship. He found out, what did they do? Did they do it the way that he said it? So it means that the people took responsibility. It means that when Alihav and Besiel were doing the work, that they were the overseers over the work to make sure that it came out exactly the way it's supposed to be, according to the pattern that was shown. So what is that? It's all about communication. Did Moshe communicate to them effectively? Yes. Did Besiel, did he communicate effectively? Yes. Did Olihav, did he communicate effectively? Yes. They were all working together because they were all on the same page. That's when things work out well. When everybody is saying the same thing and doing the same thing with the same goal, the same purpose to the same Elohim. That's the only time it's going to work. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Yom Kamishi, the fifth day. On the first day, Yahweh said to Moshe, on the first day of the first month, you are to set up the tabernacle. That's when I want you to set it up. By the way, Moshe is the only one who Yah gave this command to. Prior to reading this and studying after all these years, I used to think, because of my laziness in reading and comprehension, I thought that everyone helped to set up the tabernacle, people. Moshe is the only one to set up the tabernacle. He's the only one who had the right and the responsibility to set up the tabernacle. He not only set up the tabernacle, he set up the courtyard. He's the one who hung them sheets up. He's the one who brought in the Ark of the Covenant. He's the one who put the goat's hair out. He's the one who lit the candle. He's the one who put the showbread. He's the one. Because he's the only one authorized. He's the one that Yah gave the responsibility to, the one who had oversight, the ultimate overseer, to make sure that everything's the way that Yah commanded and put it in exactly the way the Most High said. Going to our idea about inspection again. This is what we are going to do. Inspect what you expect. Again, that's it. The sixth day, Yom Shilishi. The sixth day, he set the gold altar in the tent of meeting in front of the curtain and burned on it incense made from Aramaic spices. And Yahweh had ordered Moshe, as Yahweh had ordered Moshe. I want to take the moment just to bring us to understanding about this incense altar. The incense altar represents prayer. It's a sacrifice. That's what it is. David said, let my prayer be like incense set before you, making reference to the incense altar. My uplifted hands as an evening sacrifice. So for those of us who don't have a sacrifice, and those of us who are claiming that we have no way to make a connection with Yah, that's not true. Your prayer can be incense before the Most High. And what was the incense made of? It was made of Aramaic spices. It was made for something to smell really, really sweet. In your prayer should be one that's made out of the sweetness of who you are. Like the Aramaic spices. It should be something that's pleasing to Yah. It shouldn't be about bitterness. It shouldn't be about hatred. It should be about something coming deeply from within yourself. When you and I lift up our hands to the Most High, he says like an evening sacrifice, giving you the time frame too when one is to can also go pray. So prayer and sacrifices to the Most High, there was a morning sacrifice and there was an evening sacrifice. Those are the two times, in the morning and the evening. These sacrifices and these prayers were not making at night. They were made in the morning and they were made in the evening. That's when Yah accepts it. It's in the morning or it's in the evening. Yah doesn't accept a sacrifice made at night. He makes it in the morning and the evening, right when the sun is going down, between the time where the sky begins to blend and change into different colors, like he said on Pesach. You don't make the Pesach when it's dark. You make the Pesach between the evenings. You see? So right between Arbaim, right when the sun starts going down, make your sacrifice, if you had a sacrifice to the Most High. If you have a prayer, pray to the Most High when the sun is going down. Make a prayer, make it when the sun is coming up. Why is this? Because the Most High says, let the servants of Yahweh lift up and praise Yahweh. Praise him from what? From the rising of the sun to the going down of the same. Psalms 113. Okay? So, prayer, incense altar. David is making a reference to the incense altar. Very intimate, very close. Yom Shavi'i. Moshe was unable to enter the tent of meeting because the cloud remained on it and the glory of Yahweh filled the tabernacle. This right here brings us to the idea about there was a time after he put everything together and Yah found that it was acceptable to him. Yah came in a cloud and the glory of Yahweh filled the tabernacle, making reference to the time when the Most High, when Isaiah had a vision of the Most High, how he went into the temple of the Most High and he saw the Most High's train fill the whole place, but also too the whole place was filled with the glory of Yahweh. And what does that glory look like? We don't know. We don't know what that looks like. All we know is that the Most High represented or came in a cloud and hovered over the tent of meeting, and the glory of Yahweh filled the temple. It filled it. And so what does that look like? No one knows, because the cloud remained and he couldn't enter in. So we don't know what that looks like. There's some descriptions of it in Ezekiel. Talks about all these different colors and fire and, all this kind of stuff, but we really don't know. Okay. One of the last things I want to talk about is making a comparison, or how you would compare and evaluate, right? So there's the idea of comparison and an evaluation. This has to do with Yah. Okay. How could anyone compare or evaluate Yah? What do I mean by that? What I'm saying is, when you look at everything that was made, everything was brought to Moshe. So the tables were brought to him, the Ark of the Covenant was brought to him, the hooks, the pins, the sockets, the bases, the curtains, the materials, the cherubim, the screens, everything was brought to him for him to evaluate it and to compare it and to make sure
that it was what it's supposed to be. When you and I are talking about the Most High, there can be no evaluation. You and I cannot evaluate anything that the Most High has ever made. So just like all those things were brought and to be evaluated and oversight, the Most High doesn't have an overseer. The Most High does not have anyone to look at the work that he's made and to say whether it's good or it's bad. The Most High doesn't have anyone to take anything that he's made and compare it to anything else. There is no comparison to what Yah has made versus what anyone else has made. Yah is not to be evaluated by a human being and can never be. Yah is not evaluated by the seraphim, the angelic beings that are in his presence, the cherubim, the ophanim. Okay, all these beings that Yah has made that obey him, that sing songs to him, that talk about how kadosh, kadosh, kadosh la Yahweh. Nobody can ever compare. No one can ever evaluate Yah's work. Okay, Yah is high and he's lifted up and he's greater than us. And this is the whole point of Yah doing what he's doing. The Most High is going to ask some questions in his word. He says this: heaven is my throne, says Yahweh, and the earth is my footstool. What kind of house could you build for me? What sort of place do you devise for my rest? Didn't I myself make all these things? This is how they all came to be, says Yahweh. Okay, that's in Isaiah 66, verse number 1. Okay, the Most High is not bound by anything. So then you have to ask yourself the question: why would he want to have a tabernacle? What was the purpose of him saying that, hey, the heaven is my throne and earth is my footstool? So what kind of house could you build for me? He's asking that question. But yet he still had a tabernacle that he had built for him, that he wanted them to build. So the question would be, because he's asking a house, tabernacle, two different things. One's a temple that's made out of, stones and all this kind of stuff. But the tabernacle is made out of materials and gold and gold plated, pure gold that's overlaying some planks and all that. So nothing can contain Yah. So why would he want to live in a tabernacle? Why would he even consider abiding or living inside of a building if they can't contain him, if the earth is his footstool? Why? That's a question we need to ask. And I'm going to give us the answer here, what my thoughts are. Okay. It says, but how can Elohim actually live on earth? That's another question. How can Yah live on earth when it says he was going to live with them? Why would he live on earth? Why heaven itself, even the heaven of heavens, cannot contain you? That's from King Shlomo. So how much less this house I built? Talking about the house that he built. So if the house can't hold him, and the tabernacle Moshe put up, that can't contain him, why does he want to live among his people? That's another question. How could he live on earth? So something's going on. Okay? This is what Yah says. My home will be with them. I will be their Elohim and they will be my people. The nations will know that I'm Yahweh, who sets Israel apart as Kadosh, holy, when my sanctuary is with them forever. So the nations are going to know that we're Yah's people when Yah has totally set us apart as Kadosh. That means to separate us from all other peoples. And then not only is he going to separate us from all other peoples, he's actually going to make his sanctuary, his home, with us forever. But I thought you said the heavens. He said, what house will you build for me? What are you going to build for me that can contain me? But then he says, my sanctuary, I'm going to live with them. My home is going to be with them. Again, letting us know that you and I are going to be identified as his people when he's living among us. The world will know that you're Yahweh's people when you are completely kadosh and you're separate from everyone else. So again, without trying to hurt our feelings, we have not been made kadosh yet. We're not a people that people recognize and say, those are Yahweh's people. That hasn't been proclaimed throughout the world. And the Most High has not proclaimed that as of yet. We are his people, but we're not set apart. We're people that have gone and have abandoned our Elohim, and that's the reason why we're scattered to the earth. And therefore, you and I are among the people who are not Kadosh. That's why he has to take us and bring us back when he sets us apart as Kadosh. And he does that when the sanctuary is there.
So there's a connection between us and the sanctuary. There's a connection between Yah living with us in the sanctuary and us being separate from all other peoples. They can't be one without the other. You need both of them. The reason why you and I will not be considered Kadosh is because we don't have a sanctuary. There cannot be a sanctuary or a people has been set apart without a sanctuary. You understand? So let's get that in our inner being to understand what this means. Because remember, Yah's been teaching us over the last several weeks about him being Kadosh. And the sanctuary is Kadosh. Moshe had anointed everything in there to set it apart. That's what Yah is trying to teach us, that if you don't have this sanctuary, there's no way for you to obtain holiness the way that it's supposed to be. There's no way. There's no way possible. There's no way for you and I to achieve what Yah is looking for 100% exactly unless we're back in our land, unless there's a sanctuary. If there's no sanctuary, there is no priesthood. If there's no sanctuary, there's no kingdom. Yah's not going to allow us to abide. He set up the sanctuary in the wilderness to give us an idea and a clue about what it means to be set apart. And what he means by being set apart is what's a piece of the set apartness is the pakad. It is the oversight. Yah is living among the children of Israel, okay, so he can oversee their behaviors and he can deal with them in a way that he knows that when I give the verdict on these different things that happen, you know that you're going to still maintain your set apartness, because we're going to deal with people, we're going to deal with families, we're going to deal with uncleanness, we're going to deal with marriage, we're going to deal with all the areas. We're going to deal with justice. That's what we're going to deal with. Okay, when Yah's sanctuary is there, because when there's a decision that needs to be made, the Elohim, the judges that Yah has set in place, are the ones who will give the verdict. And when the verdict was given, it meant that the judgment had to follow, because there's always going to be a righteous person and there's always going to be a wicked person. It'll never be too wicked and too righteous. It's only going to be who's right and who's wrong. And you and I cannot determine that, because not that we don't have the facts, but we might not have all the facts. Sometimes people will present, they could be false witnesses. But Yah says, when you come here, I'm going to make sure, because Yah knows the minds and the hearts and the true understanding and the true purpose of humanity. And so when those priests were giving those judgments, if they said, hey, you're getting 39 lashes, you're getting 39 lashes. Our people were getting whooped. They were getting beat. Okay, if the judgment was for their misbehavior. But you and I can't make that happen. We can't take anybody out, because number one, they would never agree to it. So even right now, there's issues going on. You cannot take someone out and say, okay, well, you're going to get 39 lashes. You were found guilty. They're not going to acquiesce to that. They're not going to accept that. So we can't. So when Yah's sanctuary is not here and there's not the people that Yah put in place, you and I should not expect any justice. You should not expect any righteous judgment, because there's no one here to mediate that judgment. There's no one here. So when they're not around, people say, well, I'm going to take it in my own hands. I'm going to do it myself. And then when that happens, they're going to have to bear the consequences of whatever that may be. That's where we are. That's the truth. Okay. So he says, my home will be with them. He already told us that, right? So my home is going to be with you. Here's in a future account, because we talked about the past account. He says, hey, Yahweh Zavos says this. This may seem amazing to the survivor in those days, but must it also seem amazing to me? Says Yahweh Zavaot. Yahweh Zavaot says, I will save my people from the lands east and west, and I will bring them back, and they will live in Yerushalayim. They will be my people, and I will be their Elohim with faithfulness and justice. That's in Zechariah chapter number 8. Okay. I highlighted or bolded some of these things out here that I want you to see. And I want you to understand something. When Yah uses the term Yahweh Zavaoth, which he does right here, and he does right here, and he does up here, this means he is Yahweh of heaven's commands or heaven's armies. When this phrase is ever used, and when Yahweh says Yahweh Zavaoth, and when they're declaring this, he's saying, I'm the one, I'm the commander, meaning I'm in war, I'm in battle formation. I'm bringing armies. So when he talks about getting us in survivors, that means that judgment has to happen. And a lot of people are going to die. And then he talks about the lands from the east. I'm going to save my people, meaning I'm going to reach out my hand of my people and I'm going to take them from the west and I'm going to bring them back. And the only one who could do that is Yahweh Zavaot when he's in that formation. Okay. When he musters up his troops, when he calls to account, going back to what we're talking about, a future account. Okay. So when Yahweh musters up his forces, to prepare them to come for this in particular day. This is a day. But you and I are going to live with Yahweh. Okay. As he has said, they are going to live in Yerushalayim. That's where you and I are going to live. And they will be my people. Again, going back to what he said in Ezekiel chapter number 37, that you will be living. I'll make my home with you. Yahweh's going to live in Yerushalayim. For Yahweh has chosen Zion. This is a whole nother place. Psalms 132. Yahweh has chosen Zion. He has wanted it as his home. This is my resting place forever. Forever. I will live here because I so much want to. I will bless it with plenty of meat. I will give its poor the fill of food, and that's physical. Its Kohanim, which is its priests, I will clothe with salvation, and its faithful I will shout for joy, and I will make a king sprout from David's line, physical, and prepare a lamp for my anointed one and his enemies, physical. I will clothe with shame and put on him there a shining crown, physical. You understand? So this is real. This is a future account, which the Most High is guaranteeing. If you notice, is not mentioning this is after the Most High has done the account over here of having survivors. Okay. Now Yahweh is going to have a resting place. Okay. The reason why Yah has a resting place with us, everyone, is to make sure that you and I get the justice that we need. So when he says, I'm going to be their Elohim over here on the left-hand side, he says, with faithfulness and justice. That's what you and I are waiting for. You and I will never have an argument or debate about what's right and what's wrong, because we can go to the temple and we can go to the priest and they will be able to execute Yahweh's judgment. It won't be anybody hiding behind anything. Nobody. Everyone's going to have to answer. And so that's where they would determine what it is. Okay. And then Yah says, I'm going to cause a king to sprout out. There's going to be priests. Okay. And then there's going to be a person who's going to come from King David's line. And he's going to be there. To do what? To facilitate the faithfulness and the justice of Yahweh. Because that's what kings do. They bring peace and harmony by executing faithfulness and justice. Pesach is on April the 1st, 2026, which they call Passover. Chag Matzot, which is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, is on April the 2nd, which is the following morning. It's from the 2nd morning to the 9th of the evening. 7 days. Okay? 7 days. You are not to eat any leaven, and you're not to have any leaven in your house. That leaven is identified in several different ways. Okay? It's called Seor, which we'll talk about a little bit. It's a souring agent. You can look it up. It's talking about anything that causes anything to rise, which would be sodium bicarbonate. Anything that's like you know, that you find in your foods is sodium bicarbonate, which is a preserver, which causes something to rise. It's something to prevent it from corruption, which you want something that doesn't have any preservatives that causes anything to not, the sodium bicarbonate is there to prevent stuff from going bad. Okay. So you want to take that out of your house. Okay. And all these things are pointing to what the Most High did for the children of Israel, which leaven represents cruelty. So when you remove this out your house for 7 days, you're not eating it it's out of your home, and it's also out of your body. Yeah, I was saying, I want you to remove the oppression and the cruelty that you as a people have experienced. And the reason why people are cruel and oppressive is because that has been their experience. People live out their experience. Okay. They do. One last point. I'm going to take a detour right quick, and we're going to read something. All right.
And I believe it's necessary that I read it to you. And I know it's a little bit long, but I want you to take your time and I want you to look at it and I want you to consider what's being said here. Okay. This is in First Kings chapter number 8, the beginning of verse number 1. This goes hand in hand about what the experience was for the children of Israel through Shlomo versus what it was for Moshe. Okay, talking about one was for the tabernacle, this one is for the temple. It says, Then Shlomo assembled all the leaders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes and the chieftains and the parental clans and the people of Israel to King Shlomo in Yerushalayim to bring the Ark of Covenant of Yahweh out of the city of David, also known as Zion. Okay. So the city of David is also known as Zion. And this is where Yah says he wants to live and put his home at. Okay. The idea behind bringing the ark, if you notice, is not bringing the showbread, it's not bringing any of those articles. The most important thing was the Ark of the Covenant, which is the 10 words that we've been talking about. All the you shall not do this, you shall do this and that, which is in Exodus 20 that you want to memorize. You want to know what it is in English or in Hebrew, but you got to know. You got to know what that covenant is. So verse number 2, and all the men of Israel assembled before the king at the festival in the month of Etam, which is the 7th month, and all the leaders came. The Kohanim took the ark and brought up the ark of Yahweh to the tent of meeting. And the tent of meeting and all the holy utensils that were in the tent. And these, these are what the Kohanim, which are the priests and the Leviim brought up. They're talking about everything they brought out of the tabernacle. Okay, so they're transferring and moving it from one location to the next. King Shlomo and the whole community of Israel assembled in his presence with him in front of the ark. They were sacrificing sheep, oxen, numbers beyond counting. Okay, so that's Pakad. So they weren't even Pakading right here or recording. For the Kohanim brought up the Ark of the Covenant of Yahweh into the place inside of the sanctuary of the house to the especially holy place under the wings of the cherubim. So these cherubim now are huge statues. You can read the description of that in chapter number 6 and 7 of First Kings. For these cherubim, which are these guardians, they spread out their wings over the place for the ark, covering the ark and its poles from above. So they're guarding it. The poles were so long at the end that it could be seen from the holy place in front of the sanctuary, but they could not be seen from outside. They are there to this day. Okay. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets of stone on which Moshe put there at Korev when Yahweh made the covenant with the people of Israel at the time of their leaving Egypt. Okay. Of the land of Egypt. So again, there's nothing in there in this particular time. So there's no manna, there's none of that. It's just the 2 tablets of stone, which have the 10 words that you and I have been talking about. The Eseret HaDavarim. You'll hear me keep saying it over and over again. Eseret means 10 and Davarim means statements or words. Verse number 10, the Kohanim came out of the holy place after they put the ark there, and the cloud filled the house of Yahweh. Just like it did with the tabernacle. The cloud filled the house of Yahweh. So Yahweh is associated with this cloud. So that because of the cloud, the Kohanim could not stand up to perform their service, for the glory of Yahweh had filled the house of Yahweh. Going back to what we saw in our Torah portion, where that cloud covered it and no one was able to go in, and then the glory of Yahweh filled the house. So Yahweh's filling the house here, filling the temple, which they call the house, and Yahweh's glory filled the tabernacle, okay, which is the tent. He filled that. See, so in both cases, Yah's filling something, okay? And they can't do anything. They can't even go in. Can't do no service. Because Yahweh's not going to allow his glory to be shared with anyone. So you're going to stay out. Verse number 12. Shlomo said, Yahweh, this is what Shlomo said. Yahweh said that he would live in thick darkness. But I have built you a magnificent house, a place where you can live forever. Hear what he said, a place where you can live forever. The king turned around and he blessed the whole community of Israel, just like we saw with Moshe. The whole community of Israel stood. And as he said, blessed be Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, who spoke to my father David with his mouth and fulfilled his promise with his hand. He said, since the day I brought my people, Israel, out of Egypt, I chose no city from any of the tribes of Israel in which to build a house, so that my name might be there. But I did choose David to be over my people, Israel. So he chose David to be a what? An overseer. So when he talks about choosing, choice has to do with pakad, is to be over, to be an oversight, to be an overseer. Okay, so David's the overseer over the nation of Israel at this point. He says, now it was in the heart of David, my father, to build a house for the name of Yahweh, right? The Elohim of Israel. But Yahweh said to David, my father, although it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that that was in your heart. Nevertheless, you will not build the house. Rather, you will father a son, and it will be he who will build the house for my name, making mention of Shlomo. For now, Yahweh has fulfilled this spoken word. So Yah said something to David. Shlomo saying in verse number 20, you fulfill what you said of his word. For I have succeeded my father and sit on the throne of Israel. As Yahweh promised, I have built the house for the name of Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel. So what is the house built for? The house is built for Yahweh's name. Okay. So if the house is built for Yahweh's name, what was the tabernacle built for? It was built for Yahweh's name. If the house was filled with the cloud and it covered the cloud, no one's able to go in, and the glory of Yah filled it, then the same thing happened with the tabernacle. So the reason why we're reading this is because I'm showing you that the tabernacle and the house are essentially two different locations, but with the same elements. Okay. So we can understand why the tabernacle was built in the first place, because it can't contain Yah. It's built as for Yah's name. So if Yah is going to be somewhere and if people are going to recognize who his name is, there always has to be either a tent or it has to be a building or somewhere where Yahweh's name has been declared. That's what it's about. And there, verse number 21, I have made a place for the ark containing the covenant of Yahweh. So Yahweh's name is in the 10 words. The first word that Yahweh says about that 10 word is Anoki Yahweh Elohecha. I am Yahweh. So with his name being on it, the covenant has Yahweh's name. That's why I call it the covenant of Yahweh. It's not that he just made it. It's when he declared his name. He declared his name to the children of Israel where they heard him say his name. Okay. And because his name was declared, it means that that place now has to be sanctified. Just like when you look in Isaiah 6, you have the seraphim, the fiery ones. They're proclaiming Yahweh's name, Kadosh, Kadosh de Yahweh. They're saying to Yahweh, the priest, when he wears his nameplate on his turban, it says Kadosh de Yahweh. So anything where Yahweh's name is declared and there's a service to be declared, it has to be sanctified. Okay, so the Ark of the Covenant was sanctified because of what it contained. It contained the covenant of Yahweh, which Yahweh had spoken as Yahweh's testimony that has Yah's name attached to it. Okay. So he made with our ancestors. So Yah made this covenant with our ancestors. And when he brought them out of the land of Egypt, just like when you're going to do Pesach, it's because it's a memorial of what Yah did for Israel when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. Verse number 22. Then Shlomo stood before the altar of Yahweh in the presence of the whole community of Israel. He spread out his hands towards heaven and he said, Yahweh, Elohim of Israel. Yahweh, Elohim of Israel. There is no Elohim, there is no God like you in heaven, above or on the earth below. You keep covenant with your servants and you show them grace, provided that they live in your presence with all their heart. So it's conditional. So you and I don't get a half-hearted move. Yah will show mercy or grace and kindness to those of us in the people when they're living in Yahweh's presence with all of their heart. So now you and I are not living in Yah's presence in the fact that we're not inside the land, because Yah's presence is where his name is and where his tabernacle is and where his altar is. So right now, this place doesn't have Yahweh's name. The only thing that has Yah's name on it is you. And you're the one who's living in a way that's defiling him because you're eating unclean foods. You're not wearing what he told you. You're not being taught. You don't have the priest. So we're defiling Yah's name. We've already been over this before. So when he's talking about living in his presence, the only people that can only go back to Yah are these people. The people who have a whole heart. Okay. And that was the condition of them living in the land that they were in. But they weren't wholehearted with Yah. Okay. Right. So he says, but you kept your promise to your servant David, my father. You spoke with your mouth and fulfilled it with your hand. So it is today. Now, therefore, Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, keep what you promised to your servant David, my father, when you said you will never lack a man in my presence to sit on the throne of Israel. So his presence is where they're in the throne of Israel, when you're in the land. He says, if, and this is a condition, if only your children are careful about what they do, so that they live in my presence, just as you have lived in my presence. That was the condition that Yahweh told David. They said the only way that this can ever happen is if only your children are careful about what they do. They're going to live in my presence just as you live. David lived in Yah's presence wholeheartedly. You understand? So if you plan on going back, if your future includes going to Jerusalem, like we saw, he said he was going to do, that's not for everybody. It's only for the people who understand what he's looking for. Verse 26. Now, therefore, God of Israel, Elohim of Israel, please let your word, which you have spoke to your servant David, my father, be confirmed. He's asking you to let him sit on that throne and let everything that you promised to happen. But can Elohim actually live on earth? That's the question. Why heaven itself, even the heavens of heavens, cannot contain you, which was the slide I had. So how much less this house I have built? This is Shlomo talking to the Most High. So even so, Yahweh, my Elohim, pay attention to your servant's prayer and plea. Listen to the cry that your servant is praying before you today. So he's asking the Most High to do this. Now, that your eyes will be open to this house night and day toward the place concerning which you have said, my name will be there. So just like his name was there at that location, he was telling them, when my name is somewhere, I'm there. Okay. So to listen to the prayer of your servant will pray towards this place. Okay. Because it's about Yah's name. Okay. And his name and his reputation, what he represents. Okay. Verse number 30. Yes. Listen to the plea of your servant. So before we go any further, we should understand that the place of listen to the plea of your servant is going to happen for him while they are in the land, toward the place. Okay. And also that your people, Israel, when they pray toward this place. So the tabernacle, and for us, like the temple was for them, at that time was a place that people can go to and to get the answers, and for Yah to hear their pleas and to get the answers that they need. So they would go to the priest to find out what Yah would say, because Yah would communicate with them, because that was their job. Okay, so he's asking here in heaven. Now listen, this is very important. He says in verse number 30, here in heaven where you live, and when you hear, forgive. So where does Yah live? Where does Yah live? Yah lives in heaven, in the heavens of heaven. He lives there. But he says he will make his home with us. The purpose of his home with us is so you and I can live a life where we're not oppressed anymore. So we're not being taken advantage, because we can always go to Yah. We can always go to the priest and find out what we need to do. You can go to the priest and find out if your wife cheated on you. Well, even if you didn't know, you can go to the priest and find out who's guilty. You bring everybody who is involved in something, go right up to the Most High and say, hey, who's guilty? And he will point out who's guilty. And then that in particular person would have to deal with whatever punishment was meted out to them. Okay. So if a person sins, listen what he says. If a person sins against a fellow member of the community, this should be able to help us all understand. They're in the land. If a person sins against a fellow member of the community, and he or she is made to swear under oath, and he comes and he swears before your altar in this house, then here in heaven, act and judge your servants, condemning the wicked, so that his way of life devolves on his own head, and vindicating the one who is right, giving him what his righteousness deserves. So, this is something I wanted to share with all of us. The fact is that you and I, we don't have a community that will go by what Yah's laws are, because there is no house, there is no altar. No one is going to swear before Yahweh because they don't know him. They don't know the Most High, and there's no priesthood. So if you ask anybody to get anything resolved in this situation about any argument or anything, if there is no oath that he swears before Yah, he has to swear it before Yah that I'm telling the truth.
Yah wants to know whether or not you're going to be honest. You understand? He wants to know, are you going to be honest? If when Yahweh hears this in heaven, because that's where Yah lives, he's going to act and he's going to judge whoever it is, and he's going to condemn the wicked. And he's going to condemn them by telling the priest this person's guilty. And he's going to do that through the Urim and the Tumim, which are those stones that the priest had in his kosher, the breastplate of judgment that we talked about over the last several weeks. Okay. So we're not getting that right now. Okay. So, but the idea is there is what we can take from this is there is always someone who is right, and there is always someone who is wicked and wrong. And that's what you need Yah's judgment for, to determine who's right and who's wrong. Because you and I don't know their heart. We don't know what their intention is. We don't know what their intentions are. We don't know that. They might say whatever they want to say, but that's not the truth. Okay. So this is important for us to understand. So that's for the individual. Okay. Which you and I are going to talk about next week as well, because there's individuals, there's a fellow member that can do something. And then also too, he says, when your people sin against you, here's when a person sin against you. So there's individuals that sin against Yah, and there's a whole group of people, people that sin against. So when your people sin against you, not the individual, and in the consequence are defeated by an enemy, if they turn back to you, acknowledge your name. Yes, Mashal.
It also speaks on when, if, and when a Cohen sins.
Yes, absolutely. So a priest can sin too. See? So he's telling you that there's all these different ideas that have to, yes, Azanya.
You can finish. You can.
Okay, thank you. So what he's saying is, if the people sin against you and they're defeated while they're in their land, he says, and they acknowledge your name. So they have to acknowledge Yah's name and make their plea to him in this house. So that is because they have abandoned Yah. So if they have acknowledged in his name, that means that every time they would go against the Most High, go against what he's saying, which has to do with his name, his laws and the 10 words and everything has to do with his name and his reputation about what he's done. That's the reason why he spared us. Like when Moshe was like, hey, don't destroy him, because the people are going to say that you didn't do this and this and that. And he's always telling us, well, it's for the sake of my name. I didn't destroy you. So Yah's name is what's on the building. Yah's name is on the tabernacle. Yah's name is there. Okay. Yah's name is on the priest. Yah's name is everywhere. Is in the laws and everything. That's why he says, hear what Yahweh says. Verse number 34, hear in heaven, forgive the sin of your people and bring them back to the land that you gave to their ancestors. Okay. When they sin against you, and in consequence, the sky is shut. Talking about when they're in the land, verse number 35, so that there is no rain. Going back to Leviticus chapter number, I think 11. I don't know if I'm sure. It's probably, hold me on that one. I got to try to figure out where that is. But he talks about no rain. Okay. He says, then if they pray towards this place, acknowledge your name. Again, acknowledging your name. Acknowledge your name. Turn from their sin because you have brought them low. Here in heaven, because that's where Yahweh lives. Here in heaven, forgive the sin of your servants and of your people Israel, since you keep teaching them the good way by which they should live. That's what Yah's purpose is for us, is to continue to teach us how to live. That's the purpose of the tabernacle. That's the purpose of the temple. That's the purpose. So he's trying to teach us, and he teaches us how to live, because when we have a problem, we would go to the tabernacle or we go to the temple, and we would get the answer on what we should do. So if we were wicked, we would get dealt with in a way that would help us, not to just punish us. See, we're looking at like, well, I got beat with 39 stripes. That behind whooping caused you to start thinking about, I ain't gonna do that no more. So when you find out if you get beat, then you learn, okay, I got to live this way now. Okay. If you committed adultery and your husband didn't know, and your stomach swelled up, and and everything in your private part shriveled up and everything rotted, then you would know, I can't live this way. This is not the good way. So Yah is telling us that, look, I'm here to teach you how to live. I'm teaching because I'm going to show you the good way, because every way Yah says, my ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. Yahweh's way is the good way. That's why he tells us, don't take vengeance on your brother. Don't do that. Let me handle it. Okay. Send down rain on your land. That's when they're in the land. So when he talks about forgive the sin of your servants, your people, and the people of Israel, he's saying, they're in their land. Okay, 37. Keep everything in context. If there is famine in the land, blight, windstorm, mildew, locusts, shearworms, the enemy comes and the land besieges them in any of their cities, no matter what kind of plague it is or sickness, then regardless of what prayer or plea anyone among your people of Israel makes, for each individual will know what is plaguing his own conscience. So they don't need anybody to tell them. The Most High is letting them know why they're in their land. I'm going to tell you what the problem is. And the person spreads out his hands toward this house. Here in heaven, where you live, going back again, where does Yahweh live? Yahweh lives in heaven. And forgive and act since you know what each is in each one's heart. Okay, so Yah knows what's in each one's heart, and give each person what his conduct deserves, because you and only you know all human hearts. We don't know people, so we want judgment. We don't know. Our judgment is not according to Yah's, so we shouldn't ask for it because you don't know what it is. Our judgment it won't be according to what Yah wants. You and I should want the judgment of Yah. So when things happen, this is a teaching for all of us to learn how to turn to him and ask him to judge it. Ask Yah to judge it. Ask him to judge the heart of the individual. Yah knows the heart of each person. Ask him to judge them, because you and I are not fit to judge. Not right now. You don't have a right to judge. You don't have a right to make any determinations and judgments on nothing. It's not asking you for you to forgive. It's not asking for that. It's asking for Yah to forgive. That's what it's asking. Our attention, I'm reading this because I'm trying to get us to all understand our attention needs to turn back to the Shamayim. We need to turn back to where Yahweh lives. I'm guilty of this. We need to turn back and ask Yah to judge according to how he sees it, because Yahweh is the one who knows everyone's heart. I don't know it. I don't know it. You understand? So we need to do that, because Yah will give everyone what their conduct deserves, because Yahweh is righteous. He's the only one who knows. So what are we missing? We're missing because our inability to do what Yahweh says. That's why we're not getting the judgment that this should be happening. It's because we haven't done this. And if they're not judging, they're walking away free, and you think nothing's going to happen, then you and I don't know Yah, because Yah's not going to let anybody go free. They might not get it now. They might get it later. Maybe Yah's going to work on that person. Who knows? What does he want for them? Verse number 41, also the foreigner who does not belong to your people Israel, when he comes from a distant country because of your reputation, that right there is your name. So when foreigners would hear about Yah and they would find out about how things are working in their community and in that land, those people are going to come because of Yah's reputation. They're going to join themselves because of all the good stuff they're hearing about this people and about this land. Okay. For they will hear of your great name, your reputation, your mighty hand, and your outstretched arm when he delivers his people. And when he comes and prays toward this house, then here in heaven where you live, again, another phrase that we hear all the time, and not only live, but he's asking Yah to act in accordance with everything about which the foreigner is calling to you. Help the foreigner when he's calling to you, okay? So that all the peoples of the earth will know your what? Your name, and fear you. That's what we want. We want Yah to know Yah, people to know Yah's name and to fear Yah. You don't want them to fear you. You want them to fear Yah. And as does your people Israel, so that they will know that this house which I have built bears your name, not the name of any other gods, not any church, one location. So again, you should know that you're in the wrong place, because Yah's name will only be in one place. That's all it's going to be, is in one place. That's what he's telling us about Echad. He's telling us that I'm not going to have a sanctuary here and here. You said, well, there's different sanctuaries in the Testament. Well, those are places where they go to read the Torah. But Yah's name, when they had to go to judgment, they had to go to the Beit Din, which was the house where the altar was. That's where the ultimate judge is. Yah was not putting his name in all these other places. Yah was putting his name in one location. He said his name on that tabernacle. Okay. Now, what is man? The man now will decide that he's going to put Yah's name on somewhere in California, Texas, you name it. Yah's name now is scattered and being profaned all over the world now, because people are want to do what they want to do, not what he said. Verse 44. if your people go out and fight against their enemy, no matter which way you send them, and they pray to Yahweh toward the city you chose, toward the house I built for your name, then in heaven, hear their prayer, uphold their cause. Why? Because in heaven, that's where the Most High lives. 46, if they sin against you, for there's no one who doesn't sin. Something you and I need to understand. There is no one who doesn't sin. So that sin is going to be either intentional or unintentional. We're still sinners, okay? And you are angry with them and you hand them over to an enemy so that they carry them off captive to a land of their enemy, whether far away or nearby. Then if they come to their senses in the land where they have been carried away captive, turn back and make their plea to you in the land of those who carried them off captive, saying, we have sinned. We have acted wrongly. We've behaved wickedly. That's real repentance. That's real repentance. Turning back to Yah is just not saying I'm the children of Israel. Turning back to Yah is not having a nice, beautiful beard. Turning back to Yah is not putting a head wrap on and putting an anklet on your ankle. Turning back to Yah is saying we have sinned and we've acted wrongly and we've behaved wickedly. And that's the problem, because a lot of us don't want to say this. We don't want to acknowledge our own wickedness. We don't want to acknowledge the wickedness of our families, our ancestors. You don't want to acknowledge the wrong that has been done. And guess what? That's a problem. If in the land of their enemies who carried them off captive, they return to you, okay, with all, again, the people that live in the presence of Yahweh will have to have all their heart. So he's letting us know, all your heart and being, pray toward their own land, which you have gave to their ancestors, toward the city you chose, toward the house I have built for your name. Then in heaven where you live, hear their prayer and plea, uphold their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you. Forgive the transgressions which they have committed against you, and give them compassion in the sight of their captors, so that they will show compassion toward them. For they are your people, your inheritance, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt. Out of the flames of the iron furnace, may your eyes be open to the plea of your servant and to the plea of your people Israel, so that you will hear them wherever they cry out to you. You have made a distinction between them and all the peoples of the earth by making them your inheritance, as you said through Moses, your servant, when you brought them, our ancestors, out of Egypt. Yahweh Elohim, when Shlomo had finished praying all this prayer in his plea to Yahweh, he got up from in front of the altar of Yahweh, where he had been kneeling with his hands spread out toward heaven. He stood up, he raised his voice, he blessed the community of Israel. He said, blessed be Yahweh, who has given rest to his people, Israel, in accordance with everything he promised. Not one word has failed of his good promise, which he had made through Moshe, his servant. And may Yahweh Elohim be with us as he was with our ancestors, and may he never leave us or abandon us. And in this way, he will incline our hearts toward him. Wow. So that we will live according to his ways. Wow. And observe his commandments and laws and rulings, which he ordered our fathers to obey. Wow. And may these words of mine, which I have used in my plea before Yahweh, be present with Yahweh, our Elohim, day and night, so that he would uphold the cause of his servant and the cause of his people, Israel, day by day. Then all the peoples of the earth will know that Yahweh is Elohim and there is no other. So be wholehearted with Yahweh, our Elohim, living by his laws, observing his commandments as you are doing today. Then the king, together with all Israel, offered sacrifices before Yahweh. Okay, and they go on and talk about all these different things, and they celebrate and celebrate and celebrate and celebrate and celebrate, and it was on, it was cracking, it was a beautiful celebration. And then all of a sudden, you want to know, did Yahweh hear that prayer? Right? So let's find out. 9 verses left. Thank you for sharing and staying on with me, so you can get the full context. I'm not chopping this up. Look at what Yah says. 9 verses. And then we'll end. After Shlomo had finished building of Yahweh, the royal palace, and everything else he wanted to build for himself, Yahweh appeared to Shlomo a second time. Okay, the first time was when Yah asked him, "Hey, what do you want?" And he said, "I want a listening heart. That's what I want." He didn't ask for wisdom; he asked for to be able to listen. That's what he wanted. Okay, he wanted to be able to hear, so he could make good judgments for Yah's people. Okay, and so he said, as he appeared to him in Givon. Verse number 3, Yahweh said to him, I have heard your prayer I heard your prayer. So when he was praying in chapter number 8, Yah was hearing him, he was listening to him. Yah said, I've heard your prayer. Your plea that you made before me. I'm consecrating Kadosh, this house which you built, and placing my name there forever. My eyes and my heart will always be there. As for you, if, it's conditional, if you live in my presence, as did David your father, in pureness of heart and uprightness, doing everything I have ordered you to do, and observing my laws and rulings, then I will establish the throne of your rulership over Israel forever, just as I promised David your father, when I said you will never lack a man on the throne of Israel. Verse number 6, and you listen very carefully. But if you turn away from following me, you or your children, and do not observe my commandments and my regulation, which I have set before you, and you go and serve other gods, worshiping them, then I'll cut off Israel from the land I have given them. Then I will cut off Israel. I will cut off Israel. If you turn away from me, following me, you or your children, and do not observe my commandments, verse number 6, and my regulations, which I have set before you, and you go and you serve other gods, worshiping them, then I will cut off Israel from the land I've given them. This house which I consecrated for my name, not you, I will eject from my sight, and Israel will become an example to avoid and an object of scorn among all the nations. This house, so now exalted, everyone passing by will gasp and shock at the sight of it, and ask, why has Yahweh done this to this land and to this house? That's the question. Why has Yahweh done this? Verse number 9, but the answer will be, it is because they abandoned Yahweh their Elohim, who brought their ancestors out of the land of Mizraim and took hold of other gods, worshiping and serving them. This is why Yahweh has brought all these calamities on them. End of story. That's why. Okay? Thank you for taking a detour with me. I want you to understand something. Yah's not joking, and he's not playing. If he told that man, I'm going to get rid of the people of Israel off the land because of you and your children, you and your sons, if you go against me, if you don't do what I say, and if you worship other gods. So, Yah visits, and he holds the children responsible, not for the sin, but they're going to be responsible for the punishment that's supposed to be given. So when we don't do what we need to do, Yah will punish your children. It's going to effectively going to happen to them because we turned away from the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. You see? And as a result of our defiance and our disobedience and our abandonment of Yahweh, that they're going to have to suffer. So if we love our children and we love the people that Yah has put us being oversight of, then you and I are going to have to inspect, and we're going to have to inspect what we expect. Not accept, and there are no exceptions. So we need to turn this thing around. And the only way we're going to do that is through the Torah of Yahweh. That's the only way we're going to turn this around. So we're not having 100% success. What we're having, I would say, we're having some success, but not complete success. We're getting some things done, but not everything done. You understand? So we're beginning the process, because it is a process. It's not magic. It's not going to happen overnight. If it took us, 40, 50 years to be the way that we are, it's not going to come off of you. Okay. It's not just going to wash away with getting baptized. It's not going to happen like that. It's going to happen over time. And it's going to happen over time. It's going to happen over commitment. It's going to have to, when Yah points out different things to us, and he says in their own conscience that you just read, he said it would come to their mind. They're going to know if something is hitting you, it's going to come to you. And we should be seeking Yah, and we should be asking him, what is it about me that you don't find fitting?
because you're going to oversight. So I don't want to go in this blindly. I want to know. But when you read the Torah and you do a study like we're doing right now, from this study, I see. I told you I'm not going to make up my own list. I need to be taught. Okay, that's one of the things King Dawid had already said. Yah, teach me. So I'm being taught. Okay, and Yah's not going to go through a checklist with me. Okay, this, and that. He's going to bring different things to us at certain times to show us what it is that's wrong. And then how do we respond to that? We might not respond appropriately, and then we'll learn from that. My responses on certain things are not always on point. So now my response, I have to look at my responses. I have to look at how I'm looking at things because I can't read what I just read and keep moving the same way that I've always have. I have to humble myself, and I'm speaking for my own self. I'm not speaking for nobody else. I have to humble myself in order to be able to accept what Yah was talking about. I can't evaluate Yah. I can't inspect him. I have my expectation. There's nothing that could be expected from Yah. Everything he's made is perfect. The role is reversed. I'm the one who is being overseen by an overseer, and Yah is the one who oversees me. And I have to accept that. I have to accept that. Okay. And he's going to one who's going to inspect me, not myself. I have to accept what he says. Just like if you're overseer over something, you tell an employee, I don't like this. Do it over. You see your child's homework like my mama did with me. I don't like this handwriting. Tear up the homework. Do it over again. See? And I became a beautiful writer. The only reason why I can read and read with emphasis and enthusiasm is because my mama. Because she made sure that when she taught me how to read, she didn't go for, well, when I read Torah, Leviticus, prophets, writings, Psalm. No. You better speak with some enthusiasm, and you better speak in a way that people understand you. So you guys can thank my mama for the abilities I have because she was on inspection and her evaluation of me was not always good. Okay. She said I was lazy. Mama said I was lazy and she kept pushing me. She didn't like the way I had my feet. Okay. So that's what mama did. So she inspected. No, I turned out okay, but there's still some things I have to work on. And Yah's going to do the same thing to me.
Chica.
Yes.
Yes, speaking of oversight, I mean, like it's been an issue that's been like in my like it's really like it's like been very thematic with everything going on in the nations. And I was reading Isaiah 60 just actually just this morning I was reading it. And there's a part there where it says that kings are going to walk by the brightness that the Most High is going to put on us. And it really resonated with me because, the nations sure are walking by our darkness. When you
Mm.
think about the oversight that we were supposed to have
Yes.
on the nations, and I don't know about anybody else, but I know my husband and I have talked about it. It's like you have to feel some culpability, like for the state of the world
Hmm.
and like all the horrible things that are just coming out right now. And we know that we were supposed to lead the nations and all the wickedness that's coming out. And we have to feel like a sense of wow, like our ancestors just really feeling like what our ancestors truly failed at, and
Yeah. Yeah.
some culpability of why the world is the way it is, and understanding that the people that are that say that they are the people of the Most High. I mean, it's just very clear that there is no righteousness on the earth right now,
Yes.
and everybody has to be able to see it.
Yes.
And the correlation of the state of the people of the Most High is no coincidence, you know. It
Mm.
just really isn't. And it's just a time of great reflection, especially as we begin another new year, especially as war rages and we come to another Pesach. Um, I just think that it just really resonates, and I know it weighs on our hearts here. And so, like, the oversight is just truly thematic right now.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's by no coincidence that um, it's something that we're visiting right now in our Torah portion. And as usual, it's another wonderful lesson and something that we can, you know, tie on our backs and we can, apply to real life. And so, Toda.
Torah, there's a you're speaking about what's in Isaiah. There's a verse in Isaiah chapter number, I think 26. It tells us that we're supposed to have brought salvation to the world. And because we failed, we've aborted the idea of that happening. And the Most High is making it known that you guys have failed. Our job was to make sure that the world knew that there was only one Elohim, and they were just supposed to know the difference between the righteous and wickedness. And we just completely failed.
Yes.
Yeah, he said, verse number 17 of Isaiah, chapter number 26, it says, as a pregnant woman is about to give birth and cries out and she reaches in labor pain, so we have been at your presence, Yahweh. We have been pregnant and been in pain, but we, as it were, have given birth to wind.
Mm,
We have not brought salvation to the land, or those inhabiting the world have not come to life.
yes.
So the world has not come to life, and we are supposed to be brought salvation to the world, and especially to the
Yes.
land, and have not done that. So it's because of our behavior, right? So
Yes.
all the work that we've been going through and all the times that we've struggled, what can we look at now? We should be ashamed of ourselves. That's what
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
saying. I think that's what you're alluding to, is that there's a shame that goes along with this, and we need to understand. And that's what the point of being in exile is about. Is the Most High to tell us and show us. I'm ashamed. I'm just going
Yes.
to tell. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed not only of me. I'm ashamed of my people. I'm ashamed because it's evil and it's wicked. The stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
But the only way that it can ever be resolved is when Yah brings us to true humility and He breaks us down. That's the only way this
Yes.
is ever going to get resolved. That's the
Yes.
only way. You know what I'm saying? So what you said is
Yes.
spot on. This is thematic,
Yes.
and we would not be able to do this, and we wouldn't understand this if we weren't walking slowly through the Torah. I'm not running
Right.
through the Torah like I'm an Ashkenazi or a Karaite. I'm
Right.
going to walk as short and slow as I need to, so I can pick
Yes.
up what Yah is talking about.
Right.
That's it.
Yes. Yes. And it's true, like you said it before too. The whole of our relationship with the Most High has to be built upon repentance. It has to be. I mean, it has to be the whole of our relationship with Him. And that sinks in and it resonates more and more every day. It truly does.
Hallelujah.
It really
Hallelujah.
does. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Thank
I think my husband wants to say something.
you. I
You,
greatly
you're
appreciate
okay. Okay, he's good.
it. Good, Elder Bill.
No, I wasn't saying nothing. I was just saying hallelujah to what I'm listening to, and like she said, we do discuss this a lot. As far as being able to have our eyes open and our ears to hear, being able to look at what's around us starts with not just our ancestors, but where we at in this day and time. And like you
Yep.
said, everything you pointed out in this lesson is an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to be complete because it has to be checked.
Yeah.
Checking it's not complete.
Right.
So it's just wonderful sometimes when you get confirmation
That's right.
of
That's right.
what you already know,
Yeah.
plus what you've already been talking about for so long
Mhm.
that you're not the only one that see these things that we supposed to be able to do because there is an overseer.
Yes.
I could, convert and begin to speak highly and say all these wonderful things, but the simplest things that we supposed to follow aligns us to where we can begin to lead the ones who what supposed to follow us, and that's our yellow jeans.
Yeah.
Our
Yep.
yellow jeans. How we gonna lead them? How we gonna lead them into the right decisions unless we completely check every single thing? Because that's how we came up. You just said how your mother put you up.
Right.
Mama didn't play. And so what I'm saying is the benefits of mama not playing has led me to not like she's in charge with the Torah, but what I'm saying is she the good things that she did do for me, I've taken that and it's helped me in my life. But I'm saying that the things that we teach and the things that we continue and the things that we check, mama checked me. She didn't let it go. She checked me.
I get it.
I mean, I stay up all night, you guys, and she would take everything I wrote for hours and rip it up and say, do it over again. And I thought she was the meanest person in the world. I'm thinking, I didn't despise her. I was just mad. It was like, my God, like, why? It's okay. Like, no, it's not okay. Not for you, it's not. I was like, okay. So we have to take that and pass that on. And so if we're passing good things on. If you can pass on a cooking recipe from great Big Mom and all that, pass that information on. We're passing on things, and our children can have that. We should pass on the things that we have now. And of course, it can't be forced, but at least you offer to them. You say, this is what it is. This is what it is. And if they don't listen to it, then they got to bear the consequences of that.
That's right.
You see?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Y'all not playing with us. He told it, if you don't do what I'm telling you, you're getting out of the land. You guys follow my name, you're out of the land. And that's what we've done. So now we're trying to reverse the curse by us saying, okay, well, I consider what we've done. This is what we've done. You didn't do this, y'all. We did it. We're the ones who caused it.
That's right.
Dang.
You sure did.
We did it.
Yes.
So if I did it, I'm gonna take responsibility for it. Whatever role I played, I'm gonna take responsibility. For me, that's it. Anyway, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to all of you, and thank you guys for
Shabbat.